Leer. Wildside.
Welcome to this week's podcast. We are lucky enough right now to be sitting down with a man that has been there, caught that. Probably the best way that I can tell you who he is. I'm talking about Troy Linder, part of the Linder family, of course, and the mega Lindner Media conglomerate, producing all sorts of fantastic television and media programs in and or around the sport of fishing, Angling Edge television being one of them. Troy himself is one of the visible, prominent hosts of AnglingBuzz television, as well as the Ontario experience, that is. And Troy, if you've been following him and his career, is a guy that gets around, and he loves to travel and fish and does it in every country around the world. It's a very unique story. I absolutely love Troy's perspective on fishing and how to get people involved in the sport, how we overcomplicate it, and we can take this all down into bite-sized pieces that we can understand. But before we get on with Troy, please take a second to drop down, like, share, follow, whatever platform you're listening on now, and get over to chipleer.com and sign up for the newsletter so I can keep you abreast of everything that's going on in my world. Not going to inundate you with emails. You're not going to get them every other day. You're going to be lucky to get one a month. But occasionally, I'm going to send you one that says, hey, by the way, I had a really cool conversation, just like the one I'm having with Troy today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our time with Troy Linder. Troy Linder, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has been a long time. It's great to be here across a couple thousand miles away.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Southern California.
Very nice. And we're below zero. So
we're above zero here, but we're in lockdown as usual this year in Southern California. It's nice weather, but you can open up your window, but then usually there's smoke out there. So the air quality isn't good. If it's one thing, it's another thing out here in 2020.
It's been a long time since we crossed paths. I mean, we talked about that just a little bit before we started, but I'm trying to remember how long it's been since I actually saw you in person, right? I mean,
iCast?
It's got probably an iCast. I was going back to like a Fort Francis
or
something like that, but you're probably correct. It was probably on the floors of some hall somewhere in either Vegas or Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably the last 2 times I've seen you has probably been in Florida.
The 3 most exciting days of our year would be the iCast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lovely. Just an international show on the sport fishing tackle industry for the most part is what that is. But I'm glad to have you here. And I want to just start out just because of where we are and the timing of all this. It was just a couple of weeks ago now, or maybe a week, 10 days ago now, we laid to rest your uncle, Ron Linder. And on behalf of myself, I would like to do this publicly. I've done it privately, but I wanted to just extend sincere condolences to you and the entire Linder family, because it not only, every family that loses somebody like Ron is one thing, but when you practically live together, you work together, you've built an empire together, and there is no seam. It all kind of intertwines with each other. So it's got to be difficult.
No, thank you very much. It wasn't a shock at the end, which I guess is some silver lining to it. And he was at peace, at the end of his life here, especially the last couple months. He kind of knew it was I think going to go down. I don't know, the exact details of it, but he was very much ready. And for whatever reason, he was ready to go. He had all his things lined up personally, financially, in the family. So when he went, it was, if you could go out any way to leave this earth, he wrote as I said, speaking up at his funeral, he kind of wrote the last chapter. He wrote the last sentence and put a period on it and then put the quill pen, as I said, back in the ink holder, and walked away. And actually still did carried on some things even before the end. And I guess, you know, passing away in your sleep, surrounded by family, is not a bad. There's a lot, you know, worse ways to go, but that's definitely, you know, to go out as he did. Uncle Ron lived his life in his own terms, and actually wrote almost scripted the way he wanted to leave Earth on his own terms, which is quite incredible. You know, it's quite incredible, and some piece, or probably a lot of piece, I think, to our, you know, to our family for that.
So he, what was he 86?
Yes, I think 86 or 87.
So I'm telling you right now, you give me 86, 87 years old. If I got, I'm signing the contract. I'll take it, right? I mean, I'll absolutely take the deal. That is a win, man.
Into his mid 80s, he was fishing tournaments.
Well,
that's
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about it, I think honestly, the last time I saw Ron was probably, oh gosh, it would have had to have been way last winter, pre-pandemic. And probably before he went to Florida, because I always bumped into him. It was, believe it or not, it was him, Kurt Compton, at a gas station in the middle of Wisconsin. I'm filling up my vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's pumping gas, and I can hear this chirping from, you know, like a pump or two over. And I look around, the pump, and there's Ron half in and out of this Suburban talking, and Kurt Compton's back there pumping gas, and I don't know who Ron's talking to or what he's talking about. But you know, he was loud. You could hear him for a ways.
His whisper was loud.
But it was, what cool part about that, we connect there. We end up going to dinner that night, and he filled me, just like, as every interaction with Ron, he left there just with 10 different ideas about what to do, where to go, new concepts, new ideas. And it was really a fun last dinner for myself.
Running into, that's a very Uncle Ron thing. I think hearing him from far away out in public in a random gas station he's talking about fishing or an idea he has or advice to somebody. That's probably what it was, you know.
And things that I need to be paying attention to, and things that I should take to the masses of the walleye tournament anglers. And why does the National Walleye Tour do things this way? And why aren't they doing things that way? Why are we still weighing fish on stage? This is it. It didn't end.
He had an opinion about everything and was not afraid to share it with us.
And that's all, you know, we all should live that way, right? I mean, if you're passionate about it, just don't be afraid of who you are. Just let it out there, man. I mean, that's what makes us all unique and different, and the human beings that we are, is you just kind of let yourself out there, and whatever anybody's going to deal with it, and let them take it as it is, right? I mean, that's the world we live in. So what Danny posted or created, Danny Linder made this video of the tribute to Ron Linder's life. What a fabulous, fabulous piece that was.
Yeah, that was that must have been very well. He actually did tell me it was very difficult to edit, but it was very moving, and it was really great. It was a lot, you know, it laughs, you tears, you just big smiles, and just everything in that whole video, and seeing some of the early photos actually of my grandpa. I don't remember my grandma. I vaguely remember Grandpa was very young, and then seeing Uncle Ron, and then my dad as well. My dad was, you know, like almost 10 years younger than him, and seeing some of those old vintage photos, you know, it's quite something. It's really cool, especially back then, you know, when you taking a photograph or even a video was a really big deal. You know, it's not like today, you just take out your camera, click, and take as many photos, pick the best one. I mean,
well, that's probably a good thing, because with a media company behind you, you know, just the sheer volume of material that you got to choose from is going to get pretty long. Were you privy to, or what the vocabulary part's the part that in that video that I just took home? I'm like, this is absolutely priceless stuff. And we're going to put a link in there, but how unique and how much of a part of the Linder culture was this terminology of finched and what have you?
Oh,
All the
that was
different
all
words.
the, yeah, finch was all the time. That was all we would, yeah, need finch. Finch was out, that was all the time, especially in tournaments if something went bad. It was just kind of need, yeah, we used that one a lot. We still do.
Yeah.
And I guess I never thought, I just kind of grew up into it and would hear those words and you never thought it was just, it's just these common terms that just got interwoven and you knew the meaning and you knew how to use it. And it was just kind of the norm to throw those words around. So I didn't really use trick nanny. That wasn't one that I really used, but definitely Neeb and Finch for 100%.
And finched is when things went just awry, correct?
Yeah, when things go left, they go wrong. Yeah, yeah, go bad. Mm-hmm.
That's good. Yeah. That's good stuff. Now, growing up in and around that world of fishing, and it goes without description, and we don't have to dive too far into that. But from your standpoint, fishing took hold. Is that true for you? Is that true throughout the entire family?
Yeah, grew up in a fishing.
Are you shunned if you're a Linder and you don't actively fish every day?
No, absolutely, absolutely not. Fishing was, I was away from fishing. My brother doesn't fish. He hardly fishes at all. He has a much different career path, a great path. Helping, EMT and working the medical field along with, the Forest Service, working with the Forest Service across, the West and we all, no matter what, if any of our family wanted to do something else, it was never, looked down upon or anything at all. And I stepped away from fishing probably in high school, for sports, to get into sports, and was away from it for, oh boy, almost 20 years, probably 15 at least, probably, no, that would be what, 2006. Probably, yeah, 15, probably about 15 years.
So did you need that separation to find you? Is that where, you know what I mean? Because we all kind of find our own paths, but sometimes you got to go away to figure out who you are so you can come back and be you.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It was finding, carving out who I was. And when I left Minnesota to go to Arizona to college and then moved out to Los Angeles and lived in Los Angeles, for 20 years. I found out who I was, and you make mistakes and you grow and you learn a lot of things. And then I kind of naturally got back into fishing, just organically, I guess, and rediscovering a passion that I had when I was a youth for it, and even more, probably way more, a multitude more.
So, well, I would certainly expect that growing up you were just exposed to, because your dad, your uncle, the family business, everything's around fishing. You're exposed to drinking as much of the Kool-Aid as you want to take, right? You can have it all.
Yeah.
In fact, it's pretty awesome. Because you're not just getting a taste of it, you're getting a taste of it at a level that, the rest of us would, are clamoring to get to. So where I'm going with all this is do you need to go away from that to really appreciate what it's all about?
I think both. Everybody's so, so individualistic. I think that's a word. That, for my path, that was, what I needed. And sometimes you don't notice what you have until you're away from it, and being around fishing, growing up in the media and everything, it's just what it was. It's the only thing I knew. The way our family worked and everything within fishermen, and when I went away from it, it was still always there. When I go back home to gatherings and everything, we still talk a lot about fishing, and I was still kind of always involved, a little bit with fishing for the year, but nothing. I would only fish a few times a year, and didn't fish that much, nothing near what I have been fishing, in the last, 15 years or so. And when you do go away like that, and you read, it's almost like rediscovering it, and and the passion that was there for it, really grows, and you kind of appreciate, I guess I go back and appreciate even more what, my family has done, and what they've done, in the industry, and to help people, and even, within their family, sacrifices they made to be able to have that, that family surrounding structure, around fishing, built around fishing.
But you didn't just do a little away from fishing. I mean, you built when you jump back into fishing, I mean, you had if I'm not mistaken, you were like a personal trainer in LA, but then you were starting to dabble in fishing tournaments. You had quite a bit of success there. I think you've got like 40 wins or something like that. You're getting accolades, you're being recognized, and away from Minnesota, right? You're making yourself known, right? That's so you kind of set your own resume, so to speak, to come back, and now here you are. You're doing a lot. You're up to the eyeballs in Lindner Media, are you not? I mean, because you're doing AnglingBuzz, if I'm not mistaken. You're doing Ontario Experience, Fish Head TV, which I want to touch on here and just get a full understanding of what that is. You're a busy man. You're in the family business.
Yeah. It definitely keeps me, not much downtime, but juggling all those, especially the summertime, in the upper Midwest, when I go back, AnglingBuzz, open water from, when we start working on that really heavily from April, all the way through the summer, and then it transitions, to some of the ice season stuff, which I'm not really involved with. And then everything with Ontario, even with with the border being closed, not so much this year, but years before, traveling up to Ontario, working with the lodges, promoting the tourism up there. And it keeps you pretty busy, and then trying to find time, to fish a few tournaments. And the nice thing living in the Southwest is it's kind of the exact opposite of the season for tournament fishing. With the upper Midwest, the season out here starts it started now. It kind of starts in November. For team tournament stuff, it starts in about November and goes through about April. And then the Pro-Am season starts in January and kind of spread throughout the year, but January through April is the heavy tournament season here in the Southwest. And that's when kind of fishing, when the ice clears off in the upper Midwest, and you kind of flip seasons. For open, when you're just talking about open water, open water slows down because of the summer heat and everything. Pleasure boaters, you don't want to be in the lake from May to August anywhere in Southern California. You just want to avoid the lakes totally.
Well, I understand that, but but at the same time, there's nothing like the upper Midwest in the middle of the summer. I mean, it is probably one of the most special places to be in Northwest Ontario as well. I mean, you get up into this whole zone in this part of the world, and there's so much water, and everything's so alive, and it's all happening, right? I mean, it's a great week.
And that's I don't want, like in Southern California, I don't want to be fishing from, generally speaking, obviously from about May until August, but that's a great time. That's obviously the best time to be, in Minnesota in the upper Midwest is May to August. So it's nice. Southern California, I want to get away from the lakes that time of year. In Minnesota, that's when I want to be there. So, so it works out pretty well.
So AnglingBuzz is, the hot bite, what's happening, lots of fishing tips, lots of product introduction, keeping a speed of what's going on that way. Ontario Experience tends to be a little softer, a little more of a travel log, so to speak, with fishing tips kind of intertwined in. Beautiful productions, both of them very in-depth, and obviously very Linder-esque, meaning that they're very thorough and we cover a lot of information there. I'm seeing more and more of Fish Head TV, digital. What is that exactly?
Fish Head TV, that's just, just starting to kind of roll that out a little bit more and more, and that's a subscription-based service through Lindner Media, and it's separate from all the other brands. And this is on there now is a lot of what we would call, I guess, the legacy content. These are full-length, DVDs, full-length videos,
Sure.
The education, entertaining videos, more in depth on everything, and we're going to be putting more, more content up there as we move ahead on that, and that can be downloaded, and streamed across a lot of different platforms, and that's just the start of that. So that will be where everything can live. Every single video, full-length videos, I guess director's cuts, the full, all the full DVDs, all the in-depth stuff, and it's broken apart, as you see there, by species. If you want catfish, crappie, walleye, muskie, big fish, bass, ice fishing, and there'll be more and more added, as time goes on.
So, okay, that now I understand it just a little bit better, because I think that, I mean, when I was introduced to the sport and consuming media at the highest rate, that was in the era of books, VHS tapes, originally books, then went to kind of VHS tapes. And what this is just an online education. I mean, this is where it's an online education, right? This is a digital library, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is endless information.
Yeah. Digital library. That's exactly what it is. And it's consolidated, that you have everything there, even on YouTube. There's a lot of free content on YouTube, and a lot of it is kind of all over the place. It's there, but you got to search for it, and sometimes you get lost in it. What's nice about that is that it's all, it's all education. It's all, everything is right there. Whatever you're looking for, it's all right there in one place, and it's going to be growing and growing.
Your real push, or what I seem to see you kind of leaning towards, is you do a lot of exploits as the Wandering Fisherman, right? I mean, so, and is this I think you've got that trademarked, right? I think I saw somewhere there was, on your,
I have enough. Oh yeah, I have enough. I got to get, that's
a reminder. You got some things to do.
I got to update that site a little bit. But yeah, some of those articles that I wrote there, the street fishing, that was fun. Street fishing in Amsterdam. That was the first day I went out there, fishing in Amsterdam, and I don't even, I had to ask my friend Christian Drost, who lives he lives just north of Amsterdam, and I shot a couple videos with him and stay in touch with him. I'd catch a fish, I'd send him a message, be like, what is this? It's like that type of thing. He's like, what did I just catch? And he's, I'm throwing bread on a little hook, if I'm going anywhere, and if it looks like a carp and is feeding on the bottom, bread is pretty much available anywhere in the world, and all I need is a little small number 2 hook, number 4 hook, and pretty much anything will bite that.
So what's the objective? What's the objective of the Wandering Fisherman? I mean, is this your travel log, or where are you going with this?
It's kind of just I guess evolving, and the idea was trying to it's the Wandering Fisherman. Anybody can be a wandering fisherman. It's just exploring waters both locally and abroad, around the United States, and just with a couple travel rods. Most of the time on these, I'll have just 2 to 4 rods, and they're multi-piece spinning rods from St. Croix, and a backpack full of tackle. Literally a backpack full of tackle. A lot of times, what I could only pack on a plane to fly somewhere, and I've learned to break down the tackle, very simple. And that's what I've kind of shared to people, that people that maybe don't have the budget to buy a boat, that and want to go out and explore. Like, you don't have to go buy a $20,000, $50,000 boat to be able to go have a wonderful experience fishing. And right away, what you can do, you just need a couple spinning rods and a little bit of tackle, and then just, like I said, get on Google Earth and go look for places and do a little bit of research, and you can find some new waters, and go around and explore your area on the drive home. Pack a little travel rod in the back with a couple jigs and some twister tails, and go jig the little river, the drainage for walleye, and things like that, where and go explore just from the shore, or a rental boat, or that was in Austria. I had this whole thing planned. I got to Austria, and I couldn't like a lot of these areas, I don't know. Usually, sometimes I don't know where I'll be fishing until the day. I try to do as much research as possible. And in Austria, we can do a segment on the fishing license laws around the world if you think the USA is tough. In Austria, the office is only open 3 days a week. I couldn't find any information on it. I looked online, contacted people. That was the Morova River that bordered Slovakia. And I didn't know that place even existed until the morning. This is a tributary that ran to the Danube.
Oh my!
I thought I was fishing the Danube in the video. I think I'm fishing. It's technically not the Danube. It's a tributary. It'd be like fishing Pine River and thinking it's the Mississippi. It's where it drops into it. Close, bread right there. See, bread and a hook, and a little VMC with a little paddle tail swim bait, and boy, bread on a hook and a swim bait or a jerk bait. Pretty much anywhere in the world, you're going to catch a fish. Saltwater, freshwater, period. And you, like I said, I use Google, and I still do this day. I go on Google, my Google Maps, and I got my Google map here. My computer's just filled with little pins that I drop or star places. And I zoom in, I look for water, drainages, anything, and drop a pin on it. I drive to it, and just like a backpack and a couple spinning rods, anywhere in the world, if you're in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Mexico, anywhere you go, you're going to catch fish. And if you're traveling anywhere with your family and you don't have much time, this is, if you're raising a family, you can just pack one of these little multi-piece rods, a spinning rod, braid with a little leader and a little tackle box full of jigs or something. You can get away from your family in the morning, and just go fish for half an hour, catch a fish, get a little fishing fix in, and kind of keep that fishing passion alive, especially if you're limited with time because of work commitments, family commitments, which a lot of us have. And
I love the fact that you've oversimplified the sport of fishing, because and maybe oversimplified might be incorrect. You've just kept it to its basics. I mean, it is a fairly simple sport when you break it all down. We give these fish an enormous amount of credit.
Yeah, you can break it down to the basic level. It's just, basically a spinning rod, and you can pretty much catch anything. A 6.5 foot medium action spinning rod, you can catch anything. And I think getting away from, bass, talking about tournaments, getting away from bass fishing has made me a better bass angler, especially in tournaments, and learning how to adjust on the fly with a little bit of equipment. Sometimes I have sinkers and I have weights. I got bullet weights, I got slider sinkers, and I have to create rigs to be able to catch fish. And I go to some place, if there's a lead ban, I can't use lead. Well, I got to figure out how to take a jig and do a swim bait. All right, I have all these VMC lead jig heads. All right, so I got to take like a Nico hook, do a drop shot tie on it, and then just cinch up a little drop shot weight right next to it, and then I can slide on a swim bait, and then I kind of got a jig that's lead free. In places like Yellowstone Park where you can't, there's a lead ban there, and creating, some of these concoctions, how to, based on the conditions that I'm faced with and the fish that I'm fishing for, you're using very simple, tackle and gear, a couple spinning rods, and you can catch fish basically anywhere. And that's what's nice. Some people see the boats, they see all this stuff, and probably people coming into fishing are just like, oh, what is all this stuff? Side image, what is all all the downriggers, planer boards, lead core? It's probably it's got to be overwhelming. We're so deep into it that we probably don't notice it, but it has to be overwhelming to people trying to get into the sport.
Well, I attribute it to like members of my family who don't fish a lot, and neighbors that I have that don't fish a lot. And but they're aware, they're aware of what I do. And of course, sport fishing where I live in northern Minnesota, north central Minnesota is a big deal. So they're aware of what's going on. But if you start talking at all about the boats, the electronics, the fact that we've got devices in the back that automatically anchor you into the mud, and they look at all this gear, and it becomes overwhelming. And I'll admit, I'm a vocal critic of our industry. Just $100,000+ boats are wonderful for sales and marketing dollars and all these great things, but they don't get more of us fishing. And that's where what you're doing here with Wandering Fisherman, and showing yourself on the shores of a stream in Wyoming, running up and down and hitting little pools with small little presentations that cost $2. You can have a great time and catch a bunch of fish, and you don't even have to know where you're going because the stream's pretty obvious.
Yeah. And you read the stream, and you just look for a little boulder, cast by the boulder. And, and with carp fishing, the nice thing is that, it's one of my favorite fish to catch because they're in every state. I think that, I don't know if they're up in Alaska, but, pretty much in the United States, all 48 states, there's carp. And every country I've gone to and traveled to, there's carp of some sort everywhere. Mexico, Europe, Asia. And the nice thing about carp is all you need is just, as long as you have a little weight and a hook, you could catch a 10, 20 pound fish. And you just buy bread. You don't need like these fancy carp, the European carp setups with everything, which are great. And I've seen people at lakes here in Southern California with those full-on European carp setups and everything. It's almost like the big boat, somebody trying to get into, get into fishing, looking at the boat. It's overwhelming. Somebody getting into carp fishing, looking at all this different contraptions, it's probably overwhelming. And breaking it down to the simple split shot and a little circle hook, it can be that simple. And like you said, like just getting something to tug on the line, that's the enjoyment. People have to catch fish to stay fishing, especially when they're getting into the sport. They have to be able to catch a fish. And the more confusing and the more overwhelming it is, they're going to buy a license one year. They might buy a little bit of tackle and they're not going to come back into it. So how can we break that down and help build up that base for our sport as easy and affordable as possible?
So tell me, you made comment about the difficulty, rules, regulations, finding licenses in different countries. For those of us that fish in multiple states every year, and occasionally go to some place that we either haven't been for a while or have never been to that state before, finding and purchasing a license can be challenging. I mean, do we need like a unified system? I mean, couldn't Fish and Game come up with a national website? I want a fishing license, and the country pops up. You hit the state you want, and I can buy a 1 day, a 3 day, or a season, or whatever the heck. It can't be that difficult, can it?
That would be nice for just the regular, just if it was just like a non-resident fishing license, which we use a lot, and a non-resident 1 day, 3 day, 1 week annual. And keep
trout stamp, whatever, just the basics. Check it out.
Yeah, the basics, because you can get water by water, you can get boundary water stamp, you need all these other things, and each state has so many of those. You just keep the basics. I just want a 3 day thing, and it's wherever I'm going. In Tennessee, I was just fishing in Tennessee, driving through, and I had to get I forgot what it was, $40. It was $20 for the regular license, and then $40 for a trout stamp. And I was fishing for like an hour, and it cost me $40, but it was worth it. I caught some trout, so it was worth it. And a place that's nice is Colorado. When I went there, it's like $16 for a single day, and then it's like $8 each additional day. So which I actually really like that. If you go to a state a few times a year, you're only going to fish there a few times. Here's your initial day, $15. Each additional day is $5. If you especially if you don't know when you're going to go back there. I do like that. I like Colorado's thing on that. And the other thing we need to get rid of is, in a lot of states that have the fishing that it's, I forget, what state was I driving through? The season ends like February.
No, right, some odd date.
It's some odd date, and then you go there in January and be like, I'm going to spend $60 to go. From the purchase date, 1 year.
But at the same time, we can make this more confusing. I just got a notice in the mail that South Dakota is going to an automatic renew. Oh. So I could see this like being some of these apps and these other things that I have, where suddenly I've got an automatic renewal in 12 different, 15 different states.
And they get a lot of people.
It all hits January 1st. And you're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, the automatic renew. Well, they're gonna make money on that, I'm sure, and I don't know if that's the right approach. They have their reasons for it, and it's probably money.
So are you when you're touring around, like even in the States here, are you doing this all out of your car? Did you get one of them Sprint vans? Are you living in the van like a roadie? Because I love these Sprint vans. I think they're the coolest things ever. My wife will never travel with me in one, but I sure would love to.
Yeah, the new van life is something different than when I was growing up. It's not. It used to be a Volkswagen. That was the van, Volkswagen van.
Wasn't a Mercedes.
Yeah, and now they're like, oh my gosh, the new Mercedes vans are the Sprint. I don't know what those cost, $100,000.
Yeah,
that's roughing it. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? I'm all in. I think that it's well, one, it's compact, right? I mean, it's 4 wheels. It's a single base. It's easy to maneuver. You can back it up, especially with cameras and such.
Mm-hmm. If you have a lot of equipment, if you have a ton of equipment, camera equipment, the way to go and you get the bed that folds out without question.
Yeah. So how are you touring, man?
It's in my truck. Rental car. A lot of time a rental car if I'm around. Like when I drove through last fall, when I drove through Europe, and Dylan Nussbaum actually met me out there in Europe for Xander. We went in a rental boat out there fishing in the Netherlands, and when I drove with my girlfriend, I rented a car in Amsterdam, and driving out of that was the most confusing. Oh my goodness, that was a nightmare. But we drove across all the way down to Switzerland, then drove back up in a rental car, and I pulled over. I had to find out how doing the Google translation, trying to buy a fishing license in these other countries. Switzerland has some really sticky laws. Switzerland, when I fished in Zurich, I could only fish the river in Zurich, and according to their law, this is the non-resident. If you're intending to catch the fish, you have to hit it with a blunt instrument right away, so the fish only suffers once. You cannot catch and release anything, and that's part of the Swiss law. They're very strict in their fishing laws. So if you catch a fish and you're intending to catch the fish, you have to hit it with a blunt instrument. So you have to whack it. It suffers once, and that's it.
I did not anticipate a neutral country like Switzerland taking such a dramatic stance.
I don't know.
There's other countries that are near there that I would accept. I wish
they are. I know. I thought they're neutral, kind of a neutral, be a little bit freer with their fishing laws, but they're very, very strict. And the fishing in Zurich is fantastic in the river there, in the what is it, Zement River? I think right in Zurich is really, really good. There's you just walk along the thing and take a split shot Carolina rig, put a piece of bread on it, throw it out in the current, and the fish will swim up and hit it. It's really.
So is when like your whole Wandering Fisherman, I mean, is this about catching the fish? Is this just to show that you can do it anywhere, anyhow, and to simplify? Is it about travel, adventure?
It's everything. It's really everything. And the travel thing, especially now with the pandemic and this whatever's going to happen with our new normal, not being able to travel anywhere outside of the United States, except I think we can go to Mexico and I don't know, a couple other countries. But there's so many fishing opportunities just in the United States for so many different fish that you can just road trip and go camp and just have a great time and catch a lot of fish. If you want to go lake trout fishing, walleye fishing, trout fishing, bass fishing, I mean, anywhere across the United States, all these little stops off the interstates they're so easy you just look at the drain, take a reservoir, look at the drainage, and just park below a reservoir and there's fish there, if they got some depth of water. And it's a great way to have an affordable, social distance friendly getaway during this time, and especially as a lot of people have had their wages cut, job loss, and or let go, or they're in limbo and they want to just kind of for their own mental health and physical health, just to get out. Everything is closed, but some of the campgrounds are open. I think it's great just to get out and just kind of explore You don't have to go to these big lakes. There's a ton of small lakes. There's so many little waters off the major interstates that you can just go fish and catch fish and surprisingly get into some incredible bites. You don't have to stay at a fancy resort. And you just need a spinning rod. With a spinning rod, anything. You can catch anything. Trout to bass to walleye, you know.
As Americans, I think we have this mentality that we're either going to go big or we're going to go home, right? I mean, we're all in this. So and the thing comes around for fishing as well, where we either, you know, we're going to go big, we're going to go out with a guide, or we're going to have this big fancy boat, or why should I fish at all? And I traveled with a mutual friend here a few years ago, Jason Elshire.
Jason, yeah.
Yeah. So, and Jason always travels with that. He's got that broken down pack rod, right? So he's always got this pack rod and he's always got the backpack. And if you know Jason, you know the backpack. He's always got this backpack, but inside there he's got tackle and what have you. But watching him and traveling with him and his willingness at a moment's notice to flip that thing together, run down to whatever pond is next to the hotel and take 3 casts to see if something bites was like being a little kid. It's like he's got it so spot on that we don't complicate this, just go fish. And it was for myself, I ended up getting a pack rod. Now I throw it in my vehicle and I do the same thing. And it's a really nice 15-minute break, right? I don't catch a lot always, but it going and standing on the shore and taking a cast just because you can, it does change your mindset and kind of give you a little bit better perspective on life.
Yeah. Jason, the way Jason does it is a perfect example of keeping it really simple. And like you said about we tend to overcomplicate everything. Well, especially, you know, like walleye fishing or largemouth bass fishing, we're watching tournaments. I can't walleye fish unless I have a big, you know, huge boat. And in Minnesota, well, I got to go to, you know, it's big lake, big waters. You know, if I'm not fishing leech or mille lacs or, you know, or up on a big river, you know, you can't catch walleye, which, you know, the shore fish for walleye, so many places across, that was in Massachusetts, getting walleye there. And you can keep it, you know, really simple. And also, you know, you don't need you know, I got to go fish for a whole day of fishing. No, like 15 minutes, a half. A lot of my stops, if I stop somewhere, it's 15 minutes. You know, if the bite's good, I might stay for half an hour. And it usually doesn't take you. Fishing streams or rivers, you get a bridge piling. Something's there.
So one thing I love about like a lot of your videos, I noticed, at least I shouldn't say a lot, but some of your videos, you incorporate the time stamps on there to show where from the time I get out of the vehicle to the time I go to cast to the time I catch a fish, it shows that not a lot of time has elapsed, right? I mean, it doesn't take that long to get it done.
Yeah. I just started doing that. And I don't know why I didn't do it before. You know, I just pull up the GoPro file and I can see where, you know, roughly within 1 minute plus or minus when that, you know, when that was there. And it kind of makes, you know, some of these videos, you see some of these YouTube videos of like, how long did, you know, is this 2 days? You know, it could be 2 days, you know, they condense into, you know, 10 minutes. And some of these things where I'm fishing, where I'm just on the go. That's a stop in Utah. I went back there a second time, didn't catch anything. It's a little dugout hole in a river. They lived there. I probably should have, if I had a fly or something to float through the current. Nightcrawler, you definitely get bit. Nightcrawler, shot, you'd get crushed. But I stopped off on the road. I fished it for 10 minutes, caught that little brown trout. And again, the little tiny little net like that, you just have I had this foldable net that collapses. That's a nice little trout net. And these are pretty cheap nets. You know, you get these nets for 10, 20 bucks and they can last you a long time. And my truck from there it's 100 feet away from me. It's right there. You pull off the road. That's right next to I framed some of these where you can't quite tell where I'm at, but the road is right there. They're right next. This is right along the drive, and there's a little pull-out area.
Nice.
And there's so many, you know, in the Dakotas, you know, like in the Dakota, all the shore fishing in the Dakotas, my gosh, for walleye and bass, pike, smallmouth. I'd love to get out there. I do want to get out there a lot more and explore more of that.
So you're doing a fair amount of this traveling with, you're in a relationship now. You got a significant other. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. My
And
girlfriend.
you're doing a lot of traveling with her.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you've kind of, and obviously she does a lot of traveling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, this is she's a pretty interesting woman. The best, I just kind of gave her a quick glimpse getting ready for this podcast here. That's got to keep your life on toes. Ann Lee's her name?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And she, yeah, she's been involved, in social media as well a lot, and in the early days of YouTube, and her start, and in
A
the
little bit. I think she's got like 150,000 followers or something crazy like that on Instagram.
Yeah, she really
it's like a mega account.
Yeah, she's quite a woman. She's very, very smart, very, very business minded, and really tough woman, smart woman.
Hey,
And
no, and she grinds her own. She hand grinds her own coffee. Okay,
yeah,
that I'm telling you, that's impressive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was our trip. Yeah, when we went over to Thailand, and that was fun. That was right when COVID was starting. We got out of there barely.
And we're able to get back
I
here.
I fished right there in the back, right over the back. I went and shore fished right there. There were some fish. I didn't catch anything, but I fished right outside where we're staying.
So that's a pretty special relationship, and she's working on some, not to get away from fishing and you, but this whole simplification of life platform that she's promoting. It's got that's got to influence you, and I can certainly see it influencing Wandering Fisherman.
Yeah, she's her. I said she's very smart, very wise woman, and kayak. Yeah, we went kayak fishing, and I caught some little. What was that? I don't even know what that thing was. It was some sort of little bass little thing, throwing a swim bait, and and she's very minimal. When she's trying to get away from she's promoting a very minimalistic lifestyle, selling things, simplifying things. And it's been, I learned a lot from her, and a lot of these travels, you see some of these shots, like that one when we went up, that was in the Swiss Alps there. A lot of these places like that, you take the train up, and it doesn't, once you get over there, and I've explained in some of my Instagram stories, it's back when you could travel over there.
Right.
You can do it very affordable, and trying to, again, keep it simple, as much as possible. You can stay at, in some really bougie places, and you can also keep it very affordable to go see some of these, just, out here. That was Minnesota. That's in Minnesota. Yeah.
So do you find yourself, so we've got, and I give her a lot of credit, and that's why I'm asking the influence for you, because there's, we talk about simplification of life. We talk about simplification of fishing. You can do this anywhere. You can travel anywhere. But, oh, by the way, I've won 40 bass tournaments, and I've got a big fast boat, and I know. So is there a conflict between, cutting edge tournament angling, pushing the limits of the industry, and then this simplification? Is there any conflict there?
No conflict at all. And I think this is, if you want to get into tournament fishing, if you want to fish big, if I want to fish Lake Mead, you need a big boat. If you want to fish the Great Lakes, you need a big boat. If you want to get into walleye, if you want to be competitive in walleye tournament fishing, well, there's certain things, that you need. You need a boat, you need a pretty good sized boat, and you need proper electronics. And that's what it is. You want to get into tournament bass fishing, you might not need $100,000 boat, but you're going to probably need one that's in that 40,
right,
40 range, 40 to 50 range. And that's just the, pretty much the facts of it. And that's fine. If somebody wants to go down that route, what a lot of people do, well, here's the path for it. Here's what you need for that. And here's some suggestions for that. And that could be somebody that started out short, all these pros, and, a lot of them, nearly all of them, just started out shore fishing for panfish or shore fishing, and then you gradually build up to a little, maybe a kayak, You get a kayak or a canoe and you fish, and then you get a little tiller, aluminum boat with a tiller, and then you get, then you get your first, 75 horsepower, then you get a 150, then you get a 250, and you can kind of take it wherever you want. So, and I think even anglers that have, like myself, that do have, a big fancy boat, there's places I can't put the boat, period. There's plenty of water that, you just can't put a boat on. And a lot of traveling that you don't have to tow a boat. You can save money. In some of these little trips that I do, these short little few day trips. If I'm going up to Utah, I throw the kayak on the roof, and just go catch some fish. And, some of the other trips I didn't even have the kayak with, and just shore fish, very affordable. And if I do take my boat somewhere, it's going to cost more. I need parking and fuel and all that's added in. And I do like to tournament fish, so I do need that boat to tournament fish and also to explore, bigger bodies of water as well. So I think wherever people are on the spectrum, oh yeah, that's my cousin's. Yeah, that's my cousin's old town Predator. That thing is a beast. That thing's is huge. That thing's like a little boat. That pedal drive is sweet.
So do you have a favorite style or type of fishing? I mean, because we're talking about walking up and down shores in Austria to hopping in a bass boat on Lake Mead to, big water Great Lakes fishing, or an aluminum tiller at a camp in Ontario. I mean, it's all fishing, right? We all seem to, and part of the reason I bring this up, and I want to know your favorite or preferred, or if it's all encompassed, because I mean, I think the industry and what people see on ESPN or wherever when it comes to tournaments and the rest of it is nothing but the big, flashy, glamorous side of fishing.
It's all, it's all special, and especially shore fishing. When you do catch a big fish from shore, there's like a little asterisk, especially when you see walleye guys. If somebody catches a 10-pound walleye from shore, that is like, anytime I see that, or a 30-inch walleye from shore, or a high 20, that's like extra props for that person.
I'll give you that. Absolutely.
Yeah, where you had the sliding scale, right? A 3-pound largemouth from shore is like a 4-pounder in a boat, or that, a mid-20 walleye from shore is like a high 20 in a boat. And that, that was here in SoCal. I didn't catch any bass that day. I blanked on bass, and I might have caught a couple of little rats. I think just a couple like 10, 12 inchers. But I saw these carp were feeding up on the surface, so I threw the bread out. They came up and sucked it in. That was cool.
If I were you, the Lindy loaf. I can see this already.
Custom bread line that you can make sandwiches with.
May the yeast be with you, right? I can see this. It's a product. It's coming. So tell me about recently you were part of a project launch that, at least for me, I think is pretty cool. This Big Bass Dreams. Oliver and you got to help me pronounce his last name.
Nye.
Oliver Nye launches Big Bass Dreams. I see this video the other day, Bust the Bubble. What an amazing project. What is this all about?
This was all of one. Oliver has a lot of great ideas, and this was one video series that was really true to his heart. And I think, from speaking with him and seeing what he's talked about it online through his posts, this is the most, or the best project close to his heart that he's always wanted to do. And I happened to be still in Minnesota before I came back to SoCal, and stayed on. We went and we just filmed. We got out one day and did some kayak fishing, and he went across Minnesota to feature the wonderful fishing that we have there, and in different, shore fishing, kayak, canoe, in a boat. And this the Mike shot a lot of, Mike shot and edited this, Mike Thines, and to capture, you know, the feed, you know, when you capture these shots, you know, with the mood of the shots and the lighting and the editing, it's just a fun, it's such a fun video to watch. You know, it's not a big instructional video. It's something that when I watch it, I want to go. You watch it and you want to go out and fish, and you want to go fish in Minnesota even more.
No, I love it. It is. I watch this, and it's like this encompasses so much of what I've been waiting to see in the world of sport fishing. I can't even begin to tell you. It is. He's celebrating the species. He's embracing the natural resources that we are in at the time that you're experiencing the sport. And most of what we see is not that way. He's taken us and making us part of the experience, the way that this is shot and presented, that I could really feel. I could feel there was a really a human element and something there that I hadn't felt with other video productions around fishing before. And I'd tip your hat on being part of this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I gotta thank him for, you know, for allowing me to have a, you know, a little part in this video, especially in the kayak, you know, which that was really fun that day. And the mood of it, you know, it's so great, you know, the slow motion and just trying to capture the day, you know, the everything when we go out and all the things we notice, the sounds and the scenery, which sometimes doesn't, you know, you go out fishing, sometimes you'll do a photo or you know, some scenery thing, you do a video, and you look at it, gosh, that doesn't capture that. You know, it's just so much more beautiful in person.
And we all do the same thing, right? We take a picture with our phone, or we try to take a video with our phone, and then you look at it like nah, it doesn't quite.
It doesn't get, you know, the sounds in the sights when you're out there, you know, are so much better than even a video. But this video really captures, you know, this series really captures the beauty of the outdoors and Minnesota. You know, they did such a great job with this.
So is this something you're part of moving forward, or were you just happen to be here for the inauguration of it all?
I lost that big walleye.
There's always one that gets away, dude, right? There's always going to be one.
I'll think about that one. Oliver and I, we keep in contact a lot, and you know, he's from Southern California, so you know, we hang out here when both of us are in town, and we talk a lot about working together. We've talked about it for years, and just our schedules rarely allow for us to actually line up. But a lot of them were like, "Are you in town? No. You're in town? No." And he'll call you in Brainerd. I'm driving through Brainerd. I'm going through here. I'm going through there. So we'll, you know, we stay in touch. You know, we fish a tournament together in Texas. You know, some years back at Texas Team Trails. So this was, you know, a lot of these things, you know, this was kind of pre-planned a little bit, but it was kind of a slightly last minute thing, not knowing my schedule, you know, to stay on and part of it. But I'm great friends with Oliver, have been for years, and just really happy to be in the series. It was a ton of fun.
Well, and it's so concentrated on the resource. I think that's and the same thing with your Wandering Fisherman pieces that I'm seeing. There's a focus on the necessity to you know, experience the resource without abusing it, and that's a big thing. And I guess I see some of that in some of your other work too. I mean, you're obviously a real advocate of this electric motor motion, right?
Yeah.
Where are we, electric outboards, where are we going?
Well, I got involved with Pure Watercraft back in 2016 when I saw an article. They contacted them right away. And even before that, I looked at, you know, at electric propulsion for quiet power for catching fish, and then all the gas prices, you know, just looking at how much I spend on fuel and oil. And for smaller lakes and smaller bodies of water, you know, to have quiet power for trolling and catching fish, especially here in, you know, Southern California, where quiet power is a huge advantage. And they're Pure Watercraft has just some incredible technology, and I just saw the newest version that'll be able to see that this spring, and they've been working on it for years. I mean, it's such a tricky electric propulsion at that level is so tricky. I see videos up of companies, with flash videos, but they can't, what they're putting up, they can't do at scale. There's no way they can, without heavy resources. And a lot of time trying to put that at scale is very difficult. And their battery pack power there, I fished an FLW tournament with that. We tested that out in a Toyota series. And
how fast can we go? How far can we go?
That depends on that one. We got that up, I think, 22 miles per hour with our equipment and everything on there. 2 people.
Yeah, it's coming along.
It's pretty good for for a 40 horse. And you want your trolling motor quiet. That's what I want. I do like the hum. And there is a nice hum to the big. When you got the 250 and you're revving across the lake, there's a nice, hum and I guess kind of it's almost hypnotizing when you're making a long run. I like that sound. But when I'm idling around in clear water, quiet power is a huge advantage. And as as the lakes get more regulated, the electric power is going to be, I think a lot more utilized, and as regulations happen more and more and more, and the nice thing, less, fuel costs as the price of the batteries go down, and it's going lower and lower and lower, and you'll reach a threshold. There's a couple nice fish. You can see the shape of the motor. It's in line with the prop there. And they actually have a little bit bigger prop because they can force a lot of torque to it. And it's a really, the design and the engineers, incredible engineers, and the people up there are just so smart.
Is prop driven the way we're going? I mean, is it going to be, or is it, possibly as we see more and more electric? Because eventually we're going to get there. I mean, it's going to happen. So are we going to end up with some sort of jet propulsion?
I think both. I mean, both. Initially,
sure.
Be prop, with the back, the 2 different. So you have the design of the outboard. That's number 1, and you see their design of the outboard, the inner workings of it, and then the prop, the motor, and then the battery system is a whole nother. The battery system is very true. The battery system to get power density. Those the batteries themselves are actually more power dense than Tesla. When you compare the size of them, they're more power dense than what's in a Tesla. And they're IP67. They're completely waterproof. You can drop them in the lake. They're fine.
And so are these competing technologies with what they're doing at Tesla, or is this the same, or is this an open platform? I don't know the marketplace, so I don't know who's what.
It's just different. Tesla and them, they're staying in the automotive space because it's so huge.
Right.
And in the marine market is so much smaller worldwide than the automotive that these big automotive players aren't even thinking about it, and they're not even going to touch it. It's not worth their time and their efforts. They make more money developing, their car. When you're talking billions of dollars, it's way more profitable for them to develop something for a new release on a pickup truck than it is to a whole line of, for boats. And it's very different when you're talking about water to roads. Have you seen the new Hummer? No, I heard about it.
That, oh my gosh. No, I stumbled into that this weekend. I online and suddenly into the Hummer, the new release of this Hummer. I started looking at it. I was like, oh my word, if that's an electric Hummer, they're going to sell some vehicles. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, that would be, the range anxiety is a big thing with the electric boats, and it's getting better and better. And for smaller lakes, like you saw that Ranger with the battery pack, and they have they have a tracker set up. You go to purewatercraft.com and you'll see some. It's perfect in the pontoon that they have. A lot of these, you look in Florida, all those little lakes in Florida that housing lakes where you
absolutely
limit restricted. So this is, and noise pollution is very big. If you're out and if you're fishing, you like the quiet, the quietness of nature. And when there's big boats, flying around, it's really loud and it can get very annoying. So the quiet power for the housing communities and for the more enjoyment of the outdoors that's where I think electric power is going to be there. And I think it's going to help us catch more fish. I mean, anytime the fish don't know that we're there, the less they're aware of our presence, your ability to catch them, goes way up.
So in your travels, talking about quiet power or electric outboards, I'm going to use the word environmentally respectful or environmentally conscious product. Because earlier you talked about traveling, some places having lead, no lead.
Yeah.
When it comes to environment, when it comes to resources, where do we need to unify the fishing world and to try to, as we talked about, coming up with a national fishing license or something that would allow access to different state licenses? Do we need the same thing when it comes to those types of environmental regulations? Is that part of the challenge in traveling and fishing?
I'm really not sure. It's state by state, the pollution of our lakes. We need the lakes to be healthy, to have a catchable population that we can enjoy for generations to come. And it has to start somewhere. And also it has to be, somewhat affordable where it doesn't cost too much to get into that game. And that's what Pure Watercraft is really trying to do. And that's what they did with this smaller design. And they have one outboard, and the outboard can be programmed anything. It's the size, anywhere from a 9.9 to a 40 horse. It's just one unit, and you just power it differently with the battery systems. And so many of our lakes, you just see water is going to be so valuable in the future. And we'll see it, near the end of our lifetime. I don't know what it's going to look like, what our fisheries are going to look like. And lead bans and that, I got a lot of lead in a lot of my tackle boxes, and it's tungsten and some of these other, when I go to trout lakes and I have brass stuff, I got tin, I have nickel. And, in Massachusetts, the loons, leading cause of death, I believe, is, inhalation, or the weights off the bottom, the lead and that. And, and I think a balance of it where you're taking the environmental factors with the angler's needs, and there needs to be respectful dialogue on both sides and understanding where people are coming from. And, if you ban lead in a place and all of a sudden they're paying twice as much more for their tackle, well, that's going to be really tough. That's going to hurt the companies, the fishermen, everything. And trying to find a way to put some of these regulations, if there needs to be regulations at all, in place on both sides, and to really tread carefully with that. But the water quality and everything, we just right now I think it's going to get more restrictive and more restrictive. But I'm hopeful that these fishery populations will continue to be fine. The invasive species with the Asian carp and some of that have caused havoc, and that's not necessarily a water quality, a pollution thing. Some of these rivers getting polluted, and these algae things that happen out here where full lakes, just get killed. And I think, boy, that subject, we could talk about that subject so much, and I'm not an expert at all in that, and probably getting other, DNR people that know that really well, and other, scientists, and getting some scientific data on that, and finding it, instead of saying, all right, all of a sudden, all right, all electrics are out, or all, gas powers are out. Well, that doesn't, all right, we got a lot of gas powered motors that are all on the market, and how do we make them more efficient and better, and how do we move forward together?
Well, part of what and you got to tell me if you agree or disagree, but you've got fishing is kind of like a little bit like fashion. Maybe this is a bad analogy, but what just hit me is, over my lifetime, when I was younger, I couldn't see it, right? I really couldn't see fisheries, couldn't see fishery change, heard people make comments, put it in the back of my head. As I've gotten older now, and done as much fishing as I have, and as traveling as I have, there is definitely a change in fisheries wherever I have been there. And I bring it up the fashion standpoint, because when I look at pictures of myself in high school or, younger, right? And you see the family photos then compared to what your photo looks like now. And we've evolved and changed. And a lot of these fisheries, popular fisheries, have evolved, right? And you don't see that when you look at narrow little slices of time. But when you elongate it, you see a big difference. And what I see happening in my experience as I travel is change, and like these regulations, most of them are fear-based, right? So we shut things down because we're afraid of the unknown. We don't know. All we know is that zebra mussel showed up or some sort of invasive species showed up, and the fishery's changing in a way that we're not completely comfortable with. So we're just going to we're just going to close things down. And that's where what you bring up is so key with dialogue. You've got to have a discussion because if we lose the participants of the sport, we won't have anybody to fund the proper change. That's kind of where I'm going from.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people making big decisions should be able, they should step out in the field as well. Some of these
they might want to actually go fishing.
They should actually go fishing, and especially here in California, we have a lot of people in office. I won't use words to describe them, but they have no idea anything about the outdoors. They don't know anything about fishing. They're just looking at charts and stats and being told by people that are so disconnected from the outdoor community and the outdoors in general that they don't even know what they're talking about. And some of these regulations, I mean, it's, I go state to state, and the regulations that I don't mind, barbless hooks, okay, I can do. I just pinch the barb down, it's fine. I don't mind that. Lead band, you get tricky around that. And some of the fishing where some of these, you can keep 50 crappie, 50 bluegill per day. And so it's like, come on, like, what you go out and you get a bucket full of blue. You don't have to get your limit. Some of these fishing regulations are either overly restrictive or too restrictive.
Yeah.
And many of them are just, I see some of the here's your limit of striped bass or large, you keep 10 bass over, you don't need like 10 large. It's people that eat largemouth bass and keep large. You don't need, my gosh, you get a 2.5 pound largemouth. That's a lot of fillet on that. If you keep walleye, a couple nice 18 inchers, man, that's a lot of fillet on that fish. And educating people, I believe, as to what, here's a good range. Here's, all right, you can keep a bucket full of 50 bluegill. All right, well, yeah, we don't have to do that necessarily.
I think where you're so spot on with your like Wandering Fisherman and the bringing back to the basics thing. Because I mean, I'm showing people how to get out and enjoy the outdoors for 15 minutes for little to no cost to go out and show that will inspire an affinity to the resource that they may never have been exposed to it. And it is that person, right? The individual person that's going to make the change long-term, that's going to influence the legislators that are making those decisions. We got to get them out on the water too, but it starts with just keeping the sport and sharing the passion of what you do. And that makes what you're doing even that much more important, Troy. So thank you for all your work there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting to see where the industry goes, and even in 10, things are changing so fast. Like what in 5 years, 10 years, what happens with fishery regulations, as well as the lead thing, lead bans to limits to the whole gas to electric, what's going to be happening with that. And then I've seen some of these really extreme, in Europe, some of in Europe, just to like in Netherlands, went over there. Me and Dylan went over there. We had to get up to 40 horsepower because you have to take a full course to operate a boat. Anything over 40 horse, you have to take this big course. And a lot of the countries,
for two guys that grew up in Minnesota, that seems pretty odd.
We tried to get it. It's the way it is over there. And to get a fishing license in countries like Austria, you have to, and not Netherlands, but Germany, and that you have to take a test, you have to take an exam, you have to sit down and take a course to understand the fishing, the laws. and everything. And we're blessed to have it so great in America. I mean, we take, myself included, we take for granted so many things we have here, so many freedoms we have here. And when I travel, I like that, things like I can just go to a state, buy a license online and just go fish. Can't do that, going to everything I had to do I couldn't fish in, some of these other countries. I just couldn't fish there because I couldn't get a license and all the things we have to jump through in Zurich, just you can't even just go fish. You can't do it. They were jumping through all these hoops, and we're so blessed here, and we really need to. If we got to manage it, as you said, we're seeing these little slices of time. You look over the big, the big picture, 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 years. Each day, so every time we go in the water, we have an impact with the environment. Every step we take, or whatever we do with every single fish, how many we keep, how many release, it all has a cumulative effort. Or a cumulative effect on everything, and it all adds up.
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure, Troy. It's really good to get caught up after a long period of time, and I can see that we could take this a lot of different directions. Yeah. But it's fun to see and hear because I can feel the passion that you have for the sport of fishing, and the combination when you're making an adventure and travel and all that goes with it, because it's more than catching fish, man. Yeah,
it is. It's the memory. Some of the great memories aren't always the biggest fish. You remember some of the giant fish that you catch, but some of the it's the time, the experience, the day on the water. Gosh, that was just a fun day. And you look at what a fun day we had. We didn't catch much, but a memory that this lasts a lifetime, and a lot of memories that last a lifetime.
Well, thank you much for joining us today. Just a quick comment to those of you. I will make sure that we get links to much of what you saw here on the YouTube version, as well as links to all of Troy's media platforms and the Lindner Media platforms in the show notes, so you can get directly connected from here on out. Thanks for joining us, Troy. You have yourself a wonderful holiday season.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. You too. Thank you.
What a great conversation with Troy Linder, especially when you put it in perspective and realize that everything that Troy and his family have been dealing with over the last few weeks, the loss of Uncle Ron. For those of us in the sport fishing world, Ron's loss has touched all of us because he influenced all of us and helped us appreciate the resource that we're fishing and inspired us to be better anglers as well as conservationists when it comes to managing the resource itself. Really, really nice to have a conversation here with Troy. I hope you guys liked it as much as I did. Understanding the wandering fisherman and his pursuit of the simple life was really interesting and enlightening. I love his simple formats to fishing and not trying to overcomplicate things, as well as the work that he's doing with different manufacturers that are really keeping the environment first and foremost in terms of what we need to look out for as we move forward and grow this great sport of fishing. Before you leave here today, please drop down, subscribe to this platform, follow it, rate this podcast, and share it with a friend. We appreciate you having part of the Wildside family, taking part in this podcast. Thank you so much. And remember, next time, till then, be your best.